Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my channel, Secrets HR Won't Tell You. Today, we have Wilford Johnson, who is the CEO of FYPM, on today's podcast. Wilford, can you just share a little bit about yourself, your company, and what you do?
Yes, thank you so much, LaToya. Like she told you, I'm Will Johnson, owner of Finding Your Personnel Management and FYPM Staffing. We are a staffing company, plus we go and we do trainings for high school students and college students, and me and LaToya partner on those.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. So today's topic is harassment in the workplace. So today we're going to share with you the top 4 harassments that you can find in the workplace. So Wilford, just share with us the top 4 harassments in the workplace.
Okay, after doing some more research, some of them kind of run together. I'm going to be honest with you before I say it, but you have abuse of power. That's whenever your boss makes you feel like they can do whatever they want, and you have and they can retaliate and things like that. You have psychological, which we'll get into that a little bit later. Online bullying and retaliation. Those are the top 4.
The top 4, and very normal in the workplace. We see it all the time, right?
Unfortunately.
So how can an employee identify the signs of harassment in the workplace? How can they know that they're being harassed?
This is a weird question, and the reason I say it's weird, you've either been a woman a long time, you've been Black, you've been Latino, you've been Asian, you've had your sexual orientation, you've had your religious orientation for a very long time. And you know if you've been teased, you know when somebody looks at you differently, you know if something is going on. Like, usually people wait even longer because they don't want to be the person who's like, oh, this is harassment.
Mm-hmm.
It could be somebody looking at you and never looking at your face. It could be somebody just making jokes about your religion or about your heritage, or why do we I'll give you for instance. I was in retail for a long time. Okay. And somebody said, why is all this blank Black history stuff up? Clear harassment. Took him to the side, was like, and I said something. Sometimes you don't recognize it. Sometimes you're in a situation where I need to be able to pay my bills. Right. You're thinking for that point of view, so you just kind of let it go. So I kind of understand it from that, because I've actually let it go more times than I should have, especially now. But it just takes on so many forms. But you know when it's over the line. You know when you feel uncomfortable. And I think that's what it is. It's a very uncomfortable feeling, and you feel like I can't do anything. What would you say about that? How would you characterize feeling it?
It's just like, unknowingly, being harassed in the workplace. So let's say like you have a manager who is constantly texting you all throughout the day, sending you emails throughout the night, and you don't feel like you have that work-life balance, because to that manager, it can mean that it's more important to them, right? So it's 8 o'clock at night and you're getting a phone call from your manager when you were off at 4 or 5 o'clock, and it's repetitive. And once you have that conversation with your manager, sometimes retaliation can happen. And that's another form of, harassment in the workplace. So sometimes it can be unknowingly. Some people are receptive to that. Oh, call me anytime, but you're not setting those boundaries. You have to have that work-life balance. So that would be one form that I can share with you that I've also experienced when I was working for an employer at one point in time.
Definitely. I get it. It takes on a lot of different things. And that's why I say some of them bleed into each other. Because somebody's calling you at 8 or 9 o'clock and it's your boss and you take it, that one time can turn to 10 times. And now psychologically, you're like, what do I do next? Do I say something back? Do I lose this position? Right. Can I find something else that's just as good? Like, there's so many things that run through your mind when you're going. That's why I'm saying a lot of these bleed into each other. Abuse of power can lead to psychological. Online can lead to psychological. And all of them can lead to retaliation, which again goes right back to psychology. You don't get the hours you want. You don't get to go on, like if you're a traveling salesman or something like that, now you're going to cold weather places in the winter instead of where you were going before, because now your boss feels like you don't have their back or whatever it is. Retaliation happens a lot more often than it should.
I know. And I would say that would be number one. because a lot of people can, put in their 2 weeks notice and, they're leaving on great terms. They're training the next person to take over their position. And then the employer does you wrong, or that manager does you wrong because you didn't decide to stay when they offered maybe a 2% raise, or, trying to give you a little bit more PTO time as if it balanced out what a new employer is going to offer you. You can experience that too. And a lot of people may say, harassment and discrimination kind of forms under the same umbrella sometimes. So you have to kind of look deeply into that. So what can someone do, or what can an employer do? Let's go to the employer side. What can an employer do to avoid the harassment being in the workplace? I know it's going to be hard to do, but how can we limit it in the workplace?
So number one, most places you work, your first week or two, you're in your training phase. They always have something about harassment. Always. Read those, make sure you understand them, and don't do them once.
Right.
It could be something that's yearly. Open door policies with HR definitely help. But not just the open door policy. I need HR to listen. Not just, okay, we'll take it. They act like they're writing something down and nothing ever happens.
Right.
HR needs to have an open door policy and take things seriously. First of all, HR should bring you in, ask you what's going on, and then ask you, what do you feel comfortable with? Because if you're afraid of your manager retaliating, because you kind of know what you've been working somewhere, who you work for. And we do know there are people who will retaliate.
Absolutely.
So your manager should say something, your HR rep should say something like, what do you feel comfortable with? Where do you want to go from here? And just instead of just saying, this is what we're going to do, which can turn into that could be abuse of power on their side.
Exactly.
Also, you should have standing operation. We call them SOP, standard operating procedures, in place.
Right.
This is said, these are the next steps. And they always are the same steps. That's what it should be. It's not always that way, as you and I both know, because we're on the HR side of things.
Right.
So these are things that should definitely be put in place. And you have to make people who work for you feel like
safe.
All over the country now, it's this big thing. People don't want to work.
They don't.
This is the thing. I think BS for one reason. They don't want to work in jobs where they don't feel safe or they don't feel seen. So now they're going to other positions where they feel more safe and seen.